G'day everyone, Yendi here. I hope you're all doing well. Gearing up for a big 2024 season in terms of sports broadcasting around the country. I know many of you have already been on the microphone across the summer. Super jealous. Some of you are already gearing up for a big season in sport calling. Some of you starting mid-Feb, some mid-March, some early April, alongside 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 months of calling. Some of you have already been going on for the course of 12 months. So it's certainly really starting to embrace a bit of time off at the moment before gearing up for a big season ahead. But now's as good a time as any for those who are starting to really build their niche in the commentary space. Just going through top 10s to prepare for the 2024 commentary season, regardless of the sport that you guys are doing. Tip number one. Look, we can't stress this enough. Absolutely can't stress it enough. The first game of the year is always the hardest. I always see the first game of the year. I've been calling for 13-14 season now. Just leave it in the rearview mirror. Traditionally, I've always found it the most challenging, especially given you don't really get a chance to prepare so much, seeing teams for the first time, seeing new players for the first time, and you're just getting rid of some of that rust. So just remember, it's the hardest game of the season to call. You haven't got much to look back on, particularly with past performances from the teams and players, other than going back into to previous years. So just do the best that you can and park it, leave it in the rearview mirror, and go forward. Your first game of the year is definitely not going to be the best game of the year. Let's be honest, come the business end of the season, that is probably going to be some of your best work. And that brings me to point number 2, which is absolutely super important. Go back and listen to some of your calling on the back end of 2023. Just listen to the sounds of how the confidence you possessed yourself, how you commanded your role, how comfortable you felt, and just go, well, you're only as good as your last game. And traditionally, you end up getting better as the year goes on. So if you get a chance to jump on YouTube or any other streaming services or even any other audio platforms, go back, have a listen back to how you were in different roles and get a bit of a feel for what you were like. And that in that process too, it just gives you a chance to listen back to some of the games and listen to the voices and listen how the transitions were going. And that's a great way to help you prepare just by listening to some good audio, because sometimes, particularly this time of year, there's not much audio you can go back and actively listen to in order to just get you back into the rhythm. So go back. If you called a grand final or a final last year, just go back and have a listen to bits and pieces, 5-10 minutes. You probably don't need that much, and just get back into that rhythm and flow, and helps you get a little bit psyched as well. Point number 3, aim to arrive 60 minutes before the opening bounce. This is absolutely essential because you just never know what's going to happen. You might have an issue with the car. There might be traffic. So if you aim to arrive at the ground at least 60 minutes before the opening bounce, it just gives you that time, just in case something happens. And if you get to the ground 10 minutes before kickoff, then that's a better way to go. And also, it doesn't hurt to have the contact details of any of your teammates as well. If you pull over, send them a text, give them a quick call, that certainly helps. So getting to some of those routines early, that is absolutely important. I felt that in 2023, quite often, I was bouncing around between a number of competitions, and I was running late to some of the games, but I gave as much notice as I possibly could to give an idea of okay, this is where I'm going to be, and this is how long I'm going to take, and it just makes a big difference. When you're on the other side of it, it's a great comforting thing. Point number 4, go for a walk around the ground when you arrive. Get a chance to meet the players, coaches, some of the umpires. Get a feel for the condition, even if you got to do the old Matty Lloyd, toss the grass up into the air and see which way the wind's blowing. Even if you've got a ball, a soccer ball, football, whatever sport you're calling, have a kick around, get a bit of an idea, get a bit of a feel for what the conditions may be like. If there's any rain that's happened around the ground, that sort of comes into your great calling as well. Just something simple. You get an idea if there's any rain that's sort of come across overnight, there's water sitting on part of the ground. Have a walk around, identify where it is, And when you are calling, it gives you an idea if the ball heads into that area. It's not going to be easy, and it might dictate. We might see a wet sport game that we might have in front of us. Now, the next point. Look at the preseason previews and reflect on a bit of 2023 as part of the analysis. I find it really challenging just to go back and look at a game and try and call it from scratch and try and build up a narrative. So if you do get a chance to have a look back at some of the previews of involving some of the teams, even checking in with some of the coaches in the lead up to the game itself, just do a little bit of that, because when you get into rounds 2 and 3, you can build up the narrative by going back, looking at last weekend's results, who performed well, and that'll get you going. But you're starting virtually from scratch in 2024. So if you find some previews, even jump on the socials, check out some of the players, or as I went back to an earlier point, if you get to the ground a little bit early, have a walk around the ground, have a chat with coaches, catch with some of the players, team managers, just some basic things like that. That's the advantage of aiming to get to the ground 60 minutes before the game, because you've got the time to do that sort of stuff, particularly in round 1. Get in those good habits early, because if you get to the ground 60 minutes beforehand, you don't really have much content to go off, because we do look back on last weekend's results to help shape the narrative. Well, if you get there 60 minutes beforehand, there's a chance to find some of those stories that will just filter into your call. Identify your role before the bounce. Super important. Just sort of work with your team, how you want to work out the roles, and just ease your way into it. If you've only been calling for 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, you don't want to be complicating things too much. Not when you come back from maybe 6 months off or 8 months off, or even 2 or 3 months off. Just keep it simple. Pick a role that's very comfortable and just work with it. Next point, I want to be looking at play-by-play. This is great to see so many people stepping up and doing some play-by-play commentary. Who's got the ball? Where is it? And what are you going to do with it? What's going to happen with the play? And remember, the changeovers. So when somebody takes a mark, and we're talking strictly football here, somebody takes a mark, your specials will come in, and then they'll let go when the kick comes on the way, and then your special comments will take from when the ball goes from the middle, from the goals right through to the middle of the ground. When there is a stoppage as well, that's when your special comments comes in too. So the play-by-play just keeps that ball moving, but remember when to drop out. And if you are working in a combo where there's 2 play-by-plays, work on those transitions. We're looking at probably 45 seconds to 60 seconds at the absolute most. And of course, we haven't got clocks in front of us, but you can get a bit of a feel for it. It's always an approximation. But sometimes the best guesstimation really is, are you running out of gas when you're getting caught in the moment? And at that point, that's when you're looking to hand it across. When you're really gasping for air, just be mindful of that and drop back. There's no need to go, all right, I better handball over to you now. Just before you get to that stage, get that handball over. You don't need to make those directives on air. Just, that's where your 45 seconds comes in, because you're working in short sprints. It's short sprints, and keep that changeovers happening. Special comments, well, the role is for you guys is to simply keep looking around when your play-by-play has the ball. Look around to see what's happening around the ground. Look for matchups. Look for, is there anyone that's caught out of position? And then when you get the opportunity, those are the comments you can slot into, particularly when you hit a stoppage. And that's the one thing I stress enough, is that play-by-play has to drop off if the ball goes out of bounds. That's in soccer as well. That's in rugby. That's in AFL. When the ball goes out of bounds, even if you have to quickly drop the score, drop it off. Your specials comes in, and then when it's time to go, your play-by-play will take it on. So when you are co-calling together, you're looking at stoppages for that changeover as well. So again, for play-by-play, looking at those 45 seconders, just short, quick sprints, special comments. You're coming in for short sprints. And the thing that I stress for both is, when you are on the call, look outside the camera. And that comes into our next point. Tell us what we can't see. It doesn't matter what role you have. When someone else is talking, when your teammate is talking, look around, pan, see what's happening. See if you can predict something before it happens. If we're talking football, we AFL, if you know where the camera is sort of focused on the wing, particularly at half back, and a player's got the ball, how many times do you see when the player is hesitating to kick the ball down the line? Why? Is it because they've got a 2-on-1? They've got no one down that side of the ground? Do they have to switch? Tell us what they have to do. They can't go down the line because they've got a mismatch further down the ground. So I think they need to switch the ball from one end of the ground to come out towards the commentary side. Using that for an example. And that's where your specials come in. Instruct what you think should happen. You've got the experience. You've got the love of the game. Tell us about that. And the final point, substitute players' names with team names. And this goes back to, it's the first game of the season. You're not going to remember that some teams are going to have 6, 8, maybe 10 changes in their starting lineup, depending on the sport. So there's potentially 1/3, maybe half of the team that might have a fair bit of a changeover. So don't stress if you can't identify the players, just drop the team names. Keep it simple. This goes back to the number one point. I'll bookend these top 10 points for a reason. It's your first game of the season. It is always going to be the hardest. So point number 10, substitute players' names with team names, because when you get to a break, you might get the opportunity to have a bit of a better look to see who's who, and then you can field that back into your call when you come back. So keeping it nice and simple. So first game of the year is always the hardest. Get there 60 minutes beforehand. Make sure you have a contact for your teammates, and that could very well be the tech team as well. Listen back to some of your calls from 2023. That's just some of your best stuff because you're in red hot form and you're awesome, although you're going to be awesome anyway, let's be honest. Go for a walk around the ground when you can, get a feel for the conditions and just get a chance to meet some of the team if you can. Look back on some previews, reflect on part of the previous year, identify your role, play by play. We're looking at short sprints here, 45 to 60 seconds. Just keep it short and sweet. If we're working in threes, you've got 2 play-by-plays and the specials. Your play-by-plays will work out a way. A kick down the line, John Smith kicks the ball down the line and they're away. That's, for me, that is my standard throwaway line as a handover. Some people prefer taps, etc. That's okay. Special comments. Tell us what should be done. That's pretty clever. You guys are fantastic. I admire the work you guys do. And of course, tell us what we can't see. So the stuff that's happening on camera, we want to add to it, particularly a lot of you working in the streaming space. Anyway, we're all geared up for a big year in season 2024. Wishing you all the best for the upcoming calls. I'm super pumped to see how you guys go. I cannot wait to watch it. This is one of the things I love about the commentary space is I spend so much time enjoying what you guys are doing. And so in my spare time, I actively like to get around and just check in and see how you guys are calling. And I can learn a few things as well, but I just get so thrilled seeing so many awesome people stepping up to the plate and calling as we start to build and really ingrain on the foundation of calling sport here in Australia. All the best for the upcoming season and look forward to enjoying your progress as the year goes on.